What's up guys, Ryan with Cycle News. Today we get to ride Ken Roczen's race bike. Hey guys, Ryan with Cycle News. Today we just wrapped up our first ride on the 2024 RM-Z450, and really cool, we got to ride it back to back with Ken Roczen's actual race bike. Now it's no secret that the Suzuki RM-Zs aren't changed at all for 2024. We had really hoped with Kenny on the team that would change, but the way it works with manufacturers and developing a new bike, it doesn't happen that fast. I think he only signed in December, and by the time he was riding, and the 2024s are already in development during that point. So maybe in the future, if he stays on the team, would be really cool. I know Suzuki just signed on to be HEP supplier and full-time sponsor through 2025. So hopefully we'll get to see a new bike. It'd be really cool. Aside from that, we did get to ride the new bike, and this is the RM Army Edition. So you get a full Pro Circuit header and exhaust muffler with the carbon tip, which is really cool. And you get a factory edition graphics cover, which is really cool. And to match with the Pro Circuit pipe and exhaust, you get a custom Pro Circuit tuned map coupler that goes in the bike stock. So I've been riding Suzukis for the past few years when we get them on loan, and this bike compared to that bike is a lot better. It's just a lot more lively, a better snap from the throttle response. It has better carry from the bottom, through the mid, through the top, through the over rev. Like, it's all really good. It's all better than the stock bike. Stock bike is kind of sluggish in some points, and then it dies off towards the top. So the map and the exhaust system definitely wake it up a lot better than the stock bike. Now, since the bike hasn't changed, we're still dealing with some of the same issues that the Suzuki has had in the past few years. Just the suspension setup. It's too stiff in the front, it's too soft in the rear. It's just trying to find the balance is hard, and we're not going to find it on one day of riding. This morning we're at Fox Raceway, and the track was really soft and deep in the morning, and what I was feeling is that the track would move underneath me, but the bike wouldn't really move. So maybe the rear would move a bit, but the front forks take so much to engage that the track would move underneath me, or the rut would move, but the actual fork wouldn't move. So I was like turning with the wheel, but without the fork engaging. So immediately I went in and threw 4 clicks out on the compression to get that fork to soften up, and that definitely helped. And then as the track kind of wore down and it got more hard packed, I could get the fork to engage more, and that definitely helped. I was running about 107 mils of sag today to get the bike to squat good. It's all just going to take a little bit more time to get those settings dialed in. We've had these bikes for the past couple of years, and once you feel the bike out and you get the right setting, these bikes are really fun. But when it gets late in the day and the track gets bumpy, you just feel every bump on the track. And sometimes the Suzuki is a little bit stiffer to ride, but in the mornings, prep track, it's definitely one of my favorites. Okay, now everybody wants to know, how does this bike compare to Ken Roczen's race bike? The first one was fresh off the floor on Saturday night with his Chicagoland setup in there, so the hybrid track. Obviously we're not racing Supercross today, so we rode the more motocrossy setup. And then there was another bike too that had Supercross suspension that they had just turned out some clickers to make it softer. So there's 2 different race bikes. One was yellow, one was black. So if you see it in the video, that's the 2 differences. Kenny's bike is really everything we like about the Suzuki, but better. It's like the stock Suzuki on steroids. It's really nimble and has really good cornering ability, but it feels lighter. There's less vibration. It's a lot freer feeling. The gears are easier to find. The transmission feels a lot better. To me, sometimes the stock Suzuki, the transmission feels kind of, not clunky, but when you click into gears, it's slower to respond. And on Kenny's bike, it was like you click that gear and you're immediately in the gear. It was almost hard to find a gear to make sure you know that you clicked it, but when you click that gear up, you're engaged. There's no lag to it or anything. It's hard to find neutral on that bike because of it being a race nature. They don't want to accidentally bump it and get into neutral. But when you get that right click, you know it's in gear. It's a really cool feeling. I've never ridden a factory bike before, and it was definitely something, just little nuances of those bikes. Kenny runs the big titanium foot pegs, the big boot eaters with no middle. So that was kind of interesting, just a different setup than something I've ridden before. The power was something that was definitely a lot different too, especially from the stock bike. It felt almost slower in a way, but so much easier to ride. And this is definitely kind of goes towards talking about riding this bike for a 30-minute moto or a 20+ moto in the super motocross format. And just it being so smooth and having a long linear character. I basically left the bike in second gear. I grabbed it third a couple times, but basically left the bike in second gear for almost the whole track, which is pretty wild. The wideness of the gear ratios and just being able to leave it in one gear and ride it all around the track was just super fun, and it made the experience of riding it was super easy, which I was surprised, because I thought that riding a bike like that would be hard to ride. But they make it very easy for him. Maybe that's his style of riding, just smoothed out and really fun, easy to ride. Another thing to talk about is the suspension on Kenny's bike. It has a stiff nature at the top, but once you break that little crust of the top part of the stroke, it's super smooth and plush. You can jump into stuff, you can go long, you can push the bike to its limits, and obviously Kenny's so much faster than I am, but it's cool to feel that similar feeling where once you push the bike, it gets a little bit better and you crack through that top part of the crust of the fork, and it works really good. All the things that I was complaining about with the stock stuff on the Suzuki, Kenny's bike worked so much better. Just the balance of the bike, going into the turn, it feels kind of like longer and more stable. You can really sit into the rut and carry your speed a lot better. That also goes along with the engine braking and the engine character of the bike, because on the stock Suzuki, you let off the throttle and it kind of, you really feel the engine braking. And on Kenny's bike, the engine braking is a lot less. The character of the engine feels a lot freer, two-strokey, if you will. You can like coast into stuff and carry your speed without having to be like on or off like you are on the stock bike. So that was another thing that was really fun. Overall, the bike is just everything we like about the Suzuki on steroids. But don't stall it, because finding neutral is really hard because it's like that race transmission. And yeah, it was hard to start when we stalled that thing. So yeah, overall, riding a factory race bike against a stock bike or a semi-modified bike is a really cool experience. Really fun to see just the variety of how good these things can get. Better brakes, better engine, better throttle response, better engine, better suspension. Just, it's all of the things that those guys want. And it just, yeah, even for a normal guy like myself, riding that thing was a really fun experience. So thanks everyone at Suzuki. And yeah, really fun day riding the new RM-Z450. All right guys, that's gonna wrap it up. 2024 Suzuki RM-Z450 versus Ken Roczen's factory race bike. Hope you guys like this one. You'll find a full article with photos and spec sheet in the Cycle News magazine, available for free, 50 issues for free every Monday night. You can get that at cyclenews.com or sign up your email. You get that for free to your inbox. Till next time, we'll catch you guys at the track.